Step one, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step two, get some good, some food in you. Step three, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step four, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Good morning, and welcome to Good Morning Crypto, where we turn your early hours in the morning into your edge in financial freedom. Today, I've got a headline about Ross Ulbricht and about Netflix. So, after we dive into those stock heat maps and the crypto heat map, we'll dive into that first news article, and then do some Bitcoin TA. I've been waiting on this day, and it's finally here. Ross Ulbricht got pardoned yesterday. So let's hop into that stock heat map real quick, and then we'll dive into the rest of the data. We do have a mixed bag in the pre-market so far. We've got Nvidia sitting up from yesterday's close, up 2.27 from the close, up 3.02 in the pre-market. We've got Apple sitting down quite a bit, down 3.19 in the pre-market, just down slightly for now, down 0.13. We've got Berkshire Hathaway sitting up 0.13, and in the pre-market sitting up 0.07. We've got Amazon sitting up at 2.11 in the pre-market, doing quite nicely as well, sitting up 0.63%. We've got Eli Lilly also doing quite nicely from yesterday, up 2.29, and in the pre-market up about 0.25% right now. Got ExxonMobil seeing a bit of cool off as we've seen some of the executive orders on oil going into place. Got a bit of a stability in the price of the barrels of oil, but we haven't been seeing that affect the companies that sell oil too much just yet. We do have it sitting down 0.13 in the pre-market right now. We do have Tesla sitting up down 0.57, and in the pre-market sitting down 1.49% right now. We've got Microsoft sitting down 0.12 from the close yesterday, sitting up 1.06 in the pre-market. We've also got Google sitting up 1.05 in the pre-market, also seeing some sell-off, down 0.16. We've got Meta sitting up 0.6 from yesterday, looking quite nice in the pre-market right now, sitting up 0.9. I did see a comment about Netflix. It is doing quite nicely in that pre-market. It closed up 1.35% from yesterday. In the pre-market, it is up a whopping 15.52%. So doing quite nicely in that pre-market right now, as Arsan was saying in the chat. We've got Bitcoin down 0.83% right now. Ethereum looking quite neutral for the morning, up 0.05%. We've got XRP sitting up at 2.68%. We've got Solana sitting up at 2.77, and BNB's holding steady at 1.1% up. We've got Dogecoin seeing a bit of some sell-off after a whopping move to the upside yesterday, down 1.33%. We've got Cardano sitting up 1.13. Tron sitting up at 3.6. We've got Chainlink seeing a little bit of some sell-off too after some nice gains. We've got HBAR sitting down 1.69. Toncoin sitting quite neutral at 0.08% up. We've got Stellar Lumens up 0.07. we've got SWE sitting down 1.67 and Avalanche is sitting up 2.07. For the economic calendar today, we do have a little bit of some data coming out. Our first bit of the data came out right before the start of the show. That was the 30-year mortgage rate looking to hold steady in that 7% range for now. Going to have to wait to see how the new administration's impacts on some of the new tariffs are being put into place at the beginning of February kind of impacts the global market, and seeing if any of these inflation pressures kind of rear their ugly head in the housing sector as well. It has been heating up quite a bit, and we'll just have to see over the next month or so how that kind of affects the housing market as well. We will have to watch on some of these new housing starts. I do think we see a little bit of a slowdown after some of the weather disasters we've been seeing. We probably will see a bit of a pickup going into March and April as we deal with the California fires. So something to keep in mind. We do have a bit of data coming out a little bit later in the day. We do have the European Union Central Bank's president speaking as well, and that balance of trade from Japan. That will be a big market mover for the evening. Other than that, we're not seeing anything too heavy coming out of the US. Most of that is going to be for tomorrow. You do have those initial jobless claims and crude oil coming out tomorrow as well. We'll have to watch for later in the day tomorrow as we will see that Japan inflation rate and the Bank of Japan interest rate decision. We'll have to take a look at that JPY and US dollar pair here in a little bit. Let's hop over to the chat real quick before we dive into the rest of things. I did see Kyle Fields saying yo. Arsan246 saying good morning. Mark Dutch saying morning all and dropping a coffee cup. Got Alexander G in here saying good morning, listening in. I'm assuming you're probably getting ready for work. It is quite early for you. Arsan246 talking about Netflix as we had talked about in that pre-market. Netflix staggering 1K plus. Don't own any. I know I talked about a news article back when we saw the Mike Tyson and Mike Tyson fight being hosted on Netflix, and I wanted to see kind of how it was handled and the rest of the live sports that they wanted to do on things, and it looks like it's done quite well. We got Crypto Billy in here saying good morning. Good morning, good morning to you, Crypto Billy. And we've got Al Jr. Good morning and that morning sun. Hope you're all having a great day so far. Let's hop into that fear and greed. I did say we'd probably see some of that stock side picking back up, going towards that neutral range. We are up another 2 points on things as we've been seeing some of the Dixie sliding a bit and some of those bond sales going down as well. We have been seeing a pickup in some of the stock market. We're just going to have to pay attention to what sectors are getting bought up because it is some of those more inflation resistant assets and some of those assets that were doing quite well last year. We do have crypto up 8 points and in extreme greed right now. So we are seeing that fear and greed heating up as we're holding some ranges here. And when we hop over to that liquidation heat map, you can kind of see that we've got liquidity residing to both sides of us. Let me give that a little refresh. That was from about 15 minutes ago. We've got some liquidity residing to the top side around that 108 and the highs. And for the bottom side, we have two little hot spots sitting at around 104, 200, and another one residing at 102, 754, dropping all the way down to that 102, 187 range. This is the range that if we come down and grab, I would really like to see hold. So we'll have to see on that Bitcoin chart kind of how things are looking on that. We do have that 3-day looking quite nice on things. Most of that liquidity is to the top side. So when we grab some of that bottom side liquidity, we have a lot of pressure stacking up to the top side on things. That's going to be starting at that 109,000 where we saw some of that top end from the other day before Trump was sworn into office. We do have another little hot spot residing at about 108, 200. If you zoom that on out to that 2-week, you can kind of see we're looking pretty bare on both sides of us, which is what you want to see on those higher term time frames. I see Moho in here saying good morning, dropping that good morning crypto emoji and the rib chat. Let's hop over to that first news article because it's a biggie. It is pretty much the first crypto promise that Trump made that he has actually held to. And, it was a nice thing to actually see that he continued continued on some of the promises that he made. We were quite disappointed when he said, day one, I will pump your bags. And he really didn't. We saw a little bit of some downside in those markets. And this is the first crypto promise he made that he actually kept. We will kind of have to see in the rest of the 100 days what other crypto promises he's kept. He has made a large crypto friendly cabinet, and I think it'll take a bit of time before we actually see some of those crypto promises held, because there's a lot more important things that President Trump needs to handle first. So Trump pardons Silk Road creator Ross Ulbricht. U.S. President Donald Trump has given a full pardon to Ross Ulbricht, who has been in prison for 12 years for founding the defunct darknet marketplace, the Silk Road. I just called the mother of Ross Williams Ulbricht to let her know that in honor of her and the libertarian movement, which supported me so strongly, it was my pleasure to have just signed a full and unconditional pardon for her son, Ross, Trump said in a January 21st post on his Truth Social platform. The president added that Ulbricht's sentence of 40 years plus 2 life sentences was ridiculous. Ulbricht was arrested in 2013 and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 2015 for his role in the operation and creation of Silk Road. Freeing Ulbricht was one of Trump's many promises to crypto community during his presidential campaign, with the businessman pledging to pardon the Silk Road founder on his first day in office if re-elected. Several Bitcoiners had earlier expressed frustration with Trump for not following through with his promise to pardon Ulbricht on January 20th. Trump instead pardoned around 1,500 people involved in the U.S. Capitol attack on January 6, 2021. U.S. Senator Rand Paul had also called on Trump to pardon Ulbricht in a January 21st letter just hours before the president announced the pardon. Paul noted that Ulbricht, whose online black marketplace used Bitcoin for payments, received a far harsher sentence than many users such as Matthew Varan Jones, who ranked in the top 5% on the site and received 6 years in jail. Some reports previously suggested that Trump was sympathetic to the Free Ross campaign and had considered clemency for the Silk Road's founder in 2020. The crypto community has long called for Ulbricht's release with various reasons. Some question Ulbricht's key role in the Silk Road, arguing that he didn't deserve to die in prison for contributing to a marketplace where users could freely exchange goods, both legal and illegal. Others called him a Bitcoin legend due to his early contribution to the Bitcoin market. While Ulbricht did not deny his involvement in Silk Road operations, he repeatedly contested allegations that he was the sole person in charge or the original creator of the platform. "I didn't start the Silk Road, my predecessor did. From what I understand, it was an original idea to combine Bitcoin and Tor to create an anonymous market. Everything was in place, he just put the pieces together," Ulbricht said in Forbes interview in 2013. Some Bitcoiners support Ulbricht's release for his role in the adoption of Bitcoin. Silk Road was the first peer-to-peer exchanges accepting Bitcoin for illicit purposes. Ulbricht is believed to have launched Silk Road in 2011 and helped bring Bitcoin to prominence during its early days. That year, Bitcoin experienced its first rally, reaching the then record price of $32 in June. "I owe everything to Ross Ulbricht. Crypto changed my life. Crypto became big because of him. He made the ultimate sacrifice. We benefited from his work," the Bitcoin project programmer Amir Taki said on X. Bitcoin-friendly billionaire Tim Draper supported Ulbricht's release in 2019, arguing that U.S. needs entrepreneurs like him. Ulbricht's views on freedom resonated with Bitcoin's principles, further cementing his place as polarizing figure in the crypto community. During his time in prison, Ulbricht has regularly posted about Bitcoin and crypto on X. On January 19th, Ulbricht took to X to warn the community against a fake meme coin bearing his name. And this is what I've been wanting to see. 2011 was my introduction into crypto, and you can take from that what you will. So this has been long awaited news for me, and I'm much happy to see it. Crypto has definitely changed my life as well, and without people like Ulbricht who just created a marketplace, you wouldn't have seen Bitcoin being used so heavily. This is definitely something that we've been wanting to see. Part of the crypto community has been wanting to see. I don't think someone who just creates a marketplace and isn't actually participating in the marketplace, has no control over what is or isn't on the marketplace, and just decided a free enterprise of exchange of goods should be serving life in prison. So definitely a positive for the crypto community there. Let's see what the chat is saying. We've got it moving quite a bit. I see Jesse Violet in here. I see Arsan246. I don't want to see the Ivanka Trump Jr. coins. We've got Jesse Gulak in here saying good morning. Good morning to you, Jesse Gulak. We've got Trey Spot with the wave in hand. "Billy, thanks for the motivational mindset," says Jesse Gulak. I dropped that link in the chat for y'all. If you haven't been checking out those morning videos, you most definitely should. It's a great way to start your days. Show BC some love by hitting that like button. I appreciate you, Mark Dutch. And Crypto Billy saying what Mark Dutch said. "Where are the ribs on the barbecue?" says Jesse. "Instantly like the stream," says Jesse Gulak. French Toaster saying hola. Good morning to you, French Toaster. We've got a sink in toaster. Bang, bang, bang to the upside. And I'm all set in here as well. Good morning. Drop those rib emojis if you got them for that rib chat. Let's hop over to that Bitcoin chart. We've got Bitcoin at some key levels right now. We did see a bit of a bounce off of a fair value gap that I had talked about potentially seeing that midline hit on. So definitely a bit of support residing to the bottom side of us if we do see some continued sell-off here in the morning time. Looking for that confirmation of that move to the upside. I see Rashad in the chat as well saying good morning. What, giving a high in that waving hand as well. Good morning to you. Hope you're having a great day. Let's take a look at that 4 hour. We are seeing that money flow holding steady on things as we're seeing a bit of a cool off here on our prime oscillator, looking to kind of hold some of these key levels as we cool down just a bit, kind of look to see if we can push against this potential resistance line that I have drawn out from a lower time frame before we really kind of break back above things. You do see that volume slowing down just a bit as we are seeing the cool off. So if we were able to maintain this 382 on our Fibonacci extension, or at least that midline on our fair value gap at that 104 681, it bodes quite well for a push to that upside on things. We'll just kind of have to see how harsh of a sell-off we see for the morning. There isn't any heavy data to kind of drag us down, and we do have some liquidity residing down here at these levels as we had talked about earlier. If you zoom that on in to that 1 hour, you do have that curvature on our MACD on the top side of things. Our prime oscillator does have some more room to kind of go to the bottom. Your money flows kind of holding steady in that range as your volume is picking back up on a bit of some selling pressure here. So we'll have to see if we go all the way down to the bottom side of that fair value gap and pick up the rest of that liquidity. As you can kind of see here, I do have that white line right below that fair value gap, which was where the heaviest spot of that bottom side liquidity was residing. So if we're unable to maintain that midline of our fair value gap, I would look at us grabbing that bottom side liquidity on things. If you do drop a bit lower, there is some buying pressure here on the bottom side of things at about that 101 mark, where we could start seeing that move back up to the upside, and we'd probably see this trend line turn into an actual trend line because it's only got 2 touches so far. That's why I've got it dotted instead of a solid line on things. Let's drop that down to the 15-minute, kind of see what the morning is bringing our way here. As you can kind of see, you've got your prime oscillator extremely hot, looking extremely green as our money flow is starting to pick back up on things, and we might see that push back up to that 106 100 where I've got a solid line here drawn out before we see a little bit of resistance. We might see that touch on that potential trend line come into play as well. There is that crossing point on those as well, where you might just move quite slowly towards this for the morning as your prime oscillator gets a bit of some cool off, and your MACD is looking to continue towards that 0 line and hit a potential cross. You are seeing that MACD line kind of slowing up just a little bit, so you will kind of have to see how heavily that money flow can come into things. If we do end up breaking that support line this morning, I would look at another little touch back down here at some of the lows that we did see before we really confirm that move to the upside. You do have that 105 range, 105, 500, all the way up to that 106 or 100. Being a point where we could kind of see that retesting point on things if we do break above and hit that 106 900 range. Other than that, if we do break above with heavy momentum on those higher term time frames and heavy money flow, we do have that 107 900 range being that next little resistance area, and kind of free all the way up to our next little area on a Fibonacci extension, being that 109 900 range where we could start seeing that next little area of resistance. I see someone in chat saying XRP is moving. We can take a look at that one a little bit later in the show. If anyone has any other alt requests they'd like me to take a look at, go ahead and drop those in the chat. I did see Doge as well. We can take a look at Doge as well. So if anyone else has any other alt requests, go ahead and drop those in the chat for me. I was going to hop into a very quick news article about Netflix because as we had talked about in the beginning of the show, it was up a whopping 15.5% in the pre-market. So I think it's worth a news article about. Let's close that there. As you can see, Netflix stock pops 15% on the best quarter ever. Thank Squid Game and Mike Tyson. Users loved Netflix in Q4. Netflix stock surged more than 15% after the company posted a whopping beat on fourth quarter estimates. The streaming king remains on top of the world. Netflix pulled in a record 19 million paid users in the final 3 months of 2024, blowing past projections of 9.8 million users. The holiday season is usually strong, but this one was exceptionally strong thanks to the release of the second season of Squid Games, which had a record 68 million views in its first week. The live boxing match between Mike Tyson and Paul Logan was another big growth driver, attracting 65 million streams. For the final quarter of last year, Netflix earned $4.27 a share, surpassing Wall Street's estimates of $4.21. Revenue landed at $10.25 billion, also beating consensus of $10.1 billion. The outlook Netflix expects for 2025 to come in between $43.5 billion and $44.5 billion, mostly above analysts' view of $43.65 billion. Today, Netflix has 301 million paying subscribers, up a comfortable 15% year on year. The not so good news. The streaming platform is raising prices in US, Canada, Portugal, and Argentina. The most popular plan in the US will raise by $2.50 to $17.99 a month. The ad-supported tier will raise by $1 to $7.99 a month. And this is kind of just to keep with that revenue growth. You do see that happening a lot. Hulu already did it, and Hulu struggled a little bit at the beginning of things. So we'll kind of have to see how that is appreciated by some of those bottom tier subscribers and see if any change happens on those upper tiers. For things, I do see Cass in here requested. So we got Cass and Link by Arsan. Any other requests? I did see AVAX as well. We can get AVAX. And that's about all I'm seeing for now. Potentially AMP if I've got some time. AMP. Just wait, popcorn. Well, I'm not sure if that was towards the Netflix, but yeah, we will just have to see on things. Netflix on the money grab again. Well, this is that consumer-based economy. They want those higher profits. They want those higher profits. And they don't want those kind of dead months on things. Goodbye. I'm going to the gym. I'll be back at 1:30. have a good time at the gym, Rashad. I will see y'all, and I will see you in that Alex O crypto chat. I just watched the first episode of Squid Games at last, said Jay Violet. So I actually did the same. Uh, my girl and her son have been watching Squid Games, and they kind of showed me that first episode so that we could watch the second season because they'd already watched the first season, and then we just nonstop watched it for a week. So definitely a good show. I can definitely see why they got that boost in subscribers just to see that second drop, and I'm waiting for that third drop of Squid Games. It is quite a crazy show. So I see the Dusty Hunt in here saying good morning, and Trey Spot dropping those otters in the chat. Good morning to you, Trey Spot, and Bobby Howes in here as well. Good morning to you all. I was taking a look at some TradFi art assets this morning. As you can kind of see here, gold got that push to the upside that I was talking about. It didn't come in sync with the dollar, seeing some strength, which is kind of what I was hoping for on things. But gold is in a solid spot right now. I was looking for that bounce at 2,717, and that move to the upside very quickly happened after that. We did not come back down to that $2,724 range, which, if we do see a bit of a strong pullback on gold, would be a solid area to see some bouncing. You are seeing the prime oscillator looking like it's wanting to see a bit of some cool off. You might just see us maintain that top side of our Fibonacci extension range at 2,741 as we cool off on that prime oscillator and MACD as well. Your volume and money flow are very green right now. Your markets are kind of unsure on things, and that's why you're seeing a bit of a buy up on gold as well as silver, seeing that same kind of move on things. As you can kind of see here, silver is trying to hold some of these levels as well, where we had seen a bit of some selling pressure at that $31.45. If we do end up losing that range, I'd look for some of these bottoms down here. Let me get that horizontal ray pulled up around $31.30. We've got that coming all the way back here as well. So $31.31 being that next little bouncing point we could see if we were unable to maintain this range as we cool off on the prime oscillator and MACD in this range as well for silver. Definitely looking for a break back towards this trend line that was heavy resistance as we broke below it. We are seeing a lot of market uncertainty, and as the dollar is getting a bit of some sell-off, you might see that rotation into these precious metals. I got Crypto Coin Mindset in the chat. Good morning to you, sir. I hope you're having a great morning so far. If y'all have not checked out his channel, let me drop that link in the chat for y'all. He does some great work. I've been lurking in his videos for now. I don't always have the time to hop in the chat so heavily. I've got a lot going on. I just started a CDL course, so here in March, I'll be having a near career at my job, and that's been taking up a lot of time for me. I will take a quick look at the Dixie as well. We've got some sell off on that dollar. You have been seeing those 10-year yields being sold off as well, bought up, and those 2 years seeing a bit of some sell off. We are coming back down to some key levels from a daily chart, and if we lose that 107.49, it might be a quite violent drop to the downside for the Dixie. You don't have a whole lot of support below that unless you get that bounce here at about 106.72, where we saw a bit of some resistance and buying pressure on the top side. If we lose that, I'd look at that 382 no 236 being hit, and that's going to be that 105 range when we might see some support coming in for the Dixie. We'll just kind of have to see how the market prices in some of these tariffs on things, because it could be a nasty fall on the Dixie for now until we start seeing some support in the market on the positive side on things. Definitely a good thing to see for some of the market, as we've been seeing that 10-year and 2-year kind of close the gap, and Piper's talked a lot about that and the recessionary pressures as you see that gap kind of hit those higher points on things. Nothing wrong with lurking, says Crypto Coin Mindset. Let's hop over to some of those alt requests. I did have XRP requested, Link, Doge, Caspa, AVAX, and AMP. I will pull up that 4 hour on Link. I was looking at Link this morning because I think it's at some juicy levels on things. You might see a little bit more of some downside for Link. You are seeing that volume kind of slowing down just a little bit as you're seeing that prime oscillator and MACD kind of getting that cool down as well. Looking to the downside a little bit more. Good morning to you, Lunar Beaches. He's saying up or down. I think it's more of a sideways as we wait on some key levels to get hit on things and our indicators to kind of see a bit of some cool off here. I do think we see a bit of some downside for the morning. Nothing too crazy though. I am looking at Link to kind of hold this fair value gap that it's been in. That bottom side being $23.94. You do see some wicking below it. If it isn't able to hold, I would look at that $23, which is nothing too crazy for Link to kind of hit on that before we try to really make that push back up above some support lines that have turned into resistance. Kind of the opposite of Bitcoin, where it's got that potential resistance line that it really wants to launch back above. We are sitting on a macro kind of area for Bitcoin where it could hit that hard launch to the upside, and we really just need to see more of some macro cool off on things. You got that prime oscillator stacking up some divergences, really waiting to see if we get another one that might hit some cool off on things. You do have that 1 hour looking like we might see a little more downside as well. Not seeing any reversal signals or oversold signals as we're getting quite low on that prime oscillator. MACD looking across that zero line, but we are moving quite sideways as we're seeing that cool off here, which is kind of nice to see, and kind of looks like you might see a bit of some sell-off to see that real massive cool off before that swing to the upside on things. As you see a bit of some sell-off and those reversal signals start flashing on things, you might see that money flow kind of come back in to rescue things, the same as you might see on Bitcoin as well, especially since we're at some very key levels. You do have that 15-minute looking for some downside, and that's where I had that idea that we might see some of those lower levels hit. You do have a bit of a bouncing range here at about 25, 26. But if we lose that, you might see that drop all the way back down to about 24.64 before you kind of see a little bounce. And then that bottom side be in that 23.92 range where that fair value gap's bottom is sitting. I did want to take a look at that JPY US dollar pair. Let me get that pulled up quick, because we've been talking about that Japanese carry trade quite a bit on things. And as you can kind of see, let me zoom this out to a higher term time frame on things. We saw that sell off back in August on things, where we were sitting kind of high on that pair, and that's going to be back here on things. Let me get that zoomed in just a little bit more. You can kind of see this is where we got a nice little sell off on the markets. This is where, if you inverse this, you would look at the sell off with the Japanese yen being the strongest. And this is where you saw that heavy sell off when the Japanese yen was at peaks against the dollar. And as you see, this interest rate decision coming for Japan, we're at lows of the Japanese yen against the dollar, so you might not see as harsh of a sell-off on things. There's less pressure for these traders to kind of keep their asset. There's more pressure for these traders to keep their asset in the US markets, as you'll see better gains off of it, instead of moving that back over to the Japanese yen, where it is quite weak against the dollar. Really going to need to wait for that next interest rate decision from Japan, which is also being priced in as a rate hike, which might bring some strength to the Japanese yen, as we're also seeing some weakness in the dollar. Let's hop back over to some of those alt requests. We did have a link on that list. Let's take a look at XRP on things. XRP also doing quite nicely. Let's zoom that on out. We got that 1 day looking quite nice as we've broken them above my Fibonacci retracement. We did get that touch on that zero line to confirm a more move to the upside on things. You got your prime oscillator looking like it's moving sideways while it's red here in this range, but you've got your volume looking quite nice on things. Probably going to need to draw a Fibonacci extension here, so let's get that drawn out and kind of hide some of that retracement on things, because I am looking for upside targets. All right, got that drawn out. Let's hide that Fibonacci retracement and zoom in to a lower term time frame on things. Let's take a look at that 1 hour here. Let's see where we're sitting. Let me get that moved on. As you can kind of see, we're sitting here at that platinum pocket on an extension, and we're kind of looking to hold some of these ranges here. That 1 hour is looking up just a bit. We are seeing that volume slowing down just a bit, as we are seeing that move up on our MACD, crossing that indicator line on the top side of things. So seeing a more macro move to the upside, and waiting for this prime oscillator to tick back to the green on things. Might see a little bit of a pull back down. You do have this golden pocket being that $2.90 range, where you might see a bit of a harsh correction on things before we really launch back up. You are waiting on some of these moving averages to kind of higher term time frame moving averages to kind of get that move back to the upside, as you've been seeing these lower time frame moving averages really consolidating here in this range as well. You do have this 200 moving average, which is starting to look to the upside on things, and might be that next little bouncing point we see as we've been dragging down towards it over and over in this range. You got that nice little move off of it back here, and you might see that little bounce off of it as well as these moving averages kind of cool off like the prime oscillator and MACD do. Let's take a look at that 15-minute and see what that morning might bring us. As you can kind of see here, we're getting that curvature on our MACD on things. Really are already seeing those reversal signals starting to flash a bit as we're pushing towards some of these key level, these resistance levels that XRP saw after it got that move to the upside on things. We've got a few levels that we might start seeing resistance at, being that $3.31 if we continue to push up, that we might need to see that little launch off of. So really waiting to see how far we can kind of come back down before we push back up on things. We do have some nice areas of support to the bottom side as well. If we drop back below that platinum pocket on things, you have equal candle bodies with some of these wicks here at about $3.18 on things. $3.14 being that real bottom side where you might see a bit of a launching point on thing. I see when Lily Goat. I'm not sure what that one's about. Maybe I'm missing an inside joke. Mod City in the house, Jay Violet was saying. Do have a lot of mods in the chat. Dave Digital saying like 17 is Dave Digital's. Thank you for that like, Dave Digital. I see you have her booked for YouTube too. Oh, what do you think of Lily, Billy? Says Dave Digital. So I guess that's what the When Lily Goat is about. And let's take a look at Caspa. If we were unable to maintain that platinum pocket, I'd look for those downside targets on XRP. Bottom side really being that golden pocket at $2.90. Let's take a look at Caspa. I believe that's in my favorites. It might be in my extras because it's been a while. There it is, in my favorites. It's been a while since I've taken a look at Caspa. I have not been holding that project for quite a while. It hasn't been performing like I wanted it to, so I rolled over into some other projects. As you can kind of see here, the 236 has been a point of resistance, and we're looking to try to maintain this 382 on things. You've got your MACD seeing a bit of some curvature here, so might be looking for a bit more downside. You've got your 50% on a fib retracement being a nice little support line that we might come back down to again. That's that 10 cent range that we might hit all over again for Caspa, as the daily is looking quite bearish, but we could see a nice switch up on that if our lower term time frames get some movement on them and some volume coming in as well. 4 hour also looking like it's hitting that curvature to the bottom side of things. Prime oscillator just ticked to the red as the volume is really slowing down on things. She was on Billy Goat last night answering some questions. I'll have to take a look at that. I'm always asleep when you do Billy Goat tales. I go to bed at about 7:30 to 8 o'clock. I like to go to bed early so I can wake up nice and early and have time for me in the mornings before I start that show. So I'll give that a listen later on. If you want to drop that link in the chat for people in case they didn't listen in and see that, that way they can go over and support the Billy Goat Tales. Let's zoom that on in to the 15-minute, kind of see what Caspa might be looking at for the morning. It is trying to hold this 382 real quick, but we are in quite a downtrend on things. Your prime oscillator did get a bit of some cool off. Your volume is slowly starting to pick back up as your true 7 is moving more sideways on things. If you don't see a lot of that money flow coming in as well, you might see us start hitting these bottom levels around 13 cents and continue to see that move to the downside on things. So definitely waiting to see if we can maintain that 13-cent range for Caspa, and if not, we might drop back down pretty low for Caspa. That daily's looking kind of bearish on things. We did have Doge requested, so let's get Doge pulled up on things. Got Dogecoin in a very nice level here, as it's been seeing a bit of some pullback after a nice move to the upside on things. It did get a nice little blast to the upside yesterday, and saw that 50% line on that fib extension being a resistance area. And then we've got that pullback down to our 382 as we've been trying to maintain this level. You do have that 4 hour looking like it's trying to get that curvature back to the upside on our MACD, as well as the prime oscillator. If we do start seeing some volume picking back up on things, this a midline of our fair value gap being that 36-cent range could be that nice little launching point. You did see a bit of some wicking to the bottom side of it, but we're looking to kind of maintain that right now, as we've seen some cool off on the prime oscillator and the MACD as well. Let's zoom that on in to the hourly, kind of see where we're sitting on that volume. Volume is looking like it's getting a bit of a curvature back to the upside on things. I see Massey33 in the chat. Good morning, gang. Need coffee. See you all soon. Good morning to you, Massey33. About 3 cups of coffee in, so hope you get caught up and get caught up on those charts as well. I will see y'all in the Alexo crypto chat in about 8 minutes here. You are seeing that 1 hour looking like it's got that cool off. Aren't seeing any reversal signals flashing just yet, so we might try to pull back a little bit lower if we don't see that money flow really coming back in on things. We'll see where that 15-minute is residing for things. As you can kind of see, the 15-minute also looking like we're trying to make a decision here. You've got your volume being quite green on things. Your MACD is looking at that indecisive point, as it's looking quite sideways, as our indicator line is looking to make that cross of our MACD line instead. You've got your prime oscillator looking at that first reversal signal as we just turned to the red, looking quite down on that prime oscillator as well. Could just be that we see a bit of some cool off in this range. We are making a bit of a higher low, and higher low could be made here as well. Just looking to see if we can kind of see some cool off, get those moving averages to cool off, as well as your MACD and prime oscillator as well. Let's take a look at AVAX. Got AVAX sitting at a point where we might see some key levels hit as well. Let's zoom that back on out to the 4 hour. Kind of see what we might be looking at for a swing trade. We've got that prime oscillator looking nice and green, waiting for some volume to come back in on things. We do have our 50% on a Fibonacci retracement sitting right below us, as well as a old fair value gap midline sitting at that 50% line as well. It was just resistance, and as we've got that back to the top side of it, might start looking for that to be some support there. You are seeing that MACD looking to the upside on things as we just hit that cross on the bottom side. looking at the 15-minute to kind of see what the morning might bring us. As you can see, you're getting that MACD curvature back to the back towards that indicator line on things. Dave Digital, yeah, I'm a little bit. His Texas brother would say on things. I kind of tapered out my southern accent. If you have me and LBC doing a show together, you hear it come out just a little bit. So we do have a XRP special that we should be dropping this weekend. So drop in for that one. It's going to be all about XRP and everything you need to know about XRP. And you might hear on things get dropped. So, got that prime oscillator. Looking at that reversal signal flash, some overbought as well. Might need to see a little bit of a pushback up towards things to really confirm that reversal signal and that overbought signal as well. Your true 7 is moving quite sideways and might need to see that little cool down with another pushback to the upside and some resistance formed on things. We are sitting at some key levels though. As you can kind of see, we've got some selling pressure if we get back below this, and would really need to see this 37 1 to 12 cent range being that confirmation of support for the morning. If we lose that, there's that bottom side of the fair value gap at 36.16, which would be that strong bouncing point. It is 6:57. I'm gonna wind the show down. Thank you, Mark Dutch, for dropping that Piper Academy Discord in the chat on things. 11 more likes, y'all. Don't start the day with laziness. Start strong, says Dave Digital. Givers gain. Thank you, Dave, for that. You and LBC together is like watching Beavis and Butthead laughing. Hey, we like to have a lot of fun. He brings the Southern out of me, and I have a lot of fun doing shows with him. It is I've missed him a lot. I miss the banter in the mornings. So definitely going to enjoy that show together, especially since XRP is one of those big projects that got Lunar Beaches in the space and was one of his first projects that he held. I know he's a big XRP advocate, and we might see a little bit of some banter about XRP. I have some negative things to say about it, but you'll have to wait and see those on the show. Make sure to tune in for the morning market report with Piper and OC Guy at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We got Trade Academy with Trade Intuition at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We got that Crypto Nightcap with FD White and TradeFly, #1 show on Piper Academy at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And that Markets After Dark with Lunar Beaches Crypto at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. If someone wants to drop that, Crypto Billy dropped that in the chat. So he dropped that in the chat a little bit earlier, that Billy Goat Tales from last night. If you haven't checked that out, I'll be listening to that after I tune into that Alex O Crypto, where I'll see y'all in the chats and that morning market report. Other than that, make sure to wake up, because today is going to be a good day.